Hello and welcome to Run Testers. My name's Nick and this is our review of the Apple Watch Series 9. So the Series 9 and the Apple Watch Ultra 2 are the two new Apple Watches this year, and it's fair to say both of them have quite a lot in common with the previous models, the Apple Watch Series 8. With the Series 9, what you are getting is some notable hardware changes in that the screen is now brighter. It goes up to 2000 nits instead of 1000 nits on the Series 8, and it also goes down as low as 1 nit, which saves a bit of battery when the screen is in always on mode at times. You've also got a faster processor, which enables some new features, including double tap, the new gesture control available on the watch, which enables you to use things like your smart stack and perform certain actions within apps. It's not usable in the workout mode though, I should say that now, because in workouts the Apple Watch's sensors like the heart rate monitor and the accelerometer are already in use, and those are used for double tap. So you can't double tap to take a lap is the main thing to take away there, which is a shame, I think. There's also a new ultra wideband chip which makes for a more precise Find My iPhone feature. There's more recycled materials in play here, and if you get an aluminium Apple Watch Series 9 with the Sport Loop, it's completely carbon neutral, which is nice. Otherwise, a lot of stuff is the same. Like I say, you've got the 41mm and 45mm cases. You've got two buttons. One is a rotating dial. You don't have the action button that is on the Apple Watch Ultra 2. You've got the bright Retina OLED display. Same third-gen heart rate sensor as the Series 8. The sensors on board allow you to take electrocardiogram measurements, also measures skin temperature, blood oxygen saturation. There's a barometric altimeter in there. There is not multiband GPS, which you get on the Apple Watch Ultra line, but you do get all systems on tracking from a range of satellite systems, and you've still got that 18-hour battery life. Pretty reliable in getting through 1 day of use the Apple Watch Series 9, but it's not going to be very long lasting compared to sports watches or indeed the Apple Watch Ultra, which has doubled the battery life. There is a lower power mode that will get you up to 36 hours of power if you're using that, and as always it's worth noting that the Apple Watch only works for iPhones. It is not compatible with Android devices.
Hi, I'm Jane, one of the Run Testers, and I am here to talk about my likes, my dislikes and my verdict for the Apple Watch Series 9. Been running with this for a good few weeks now, and I'll get started with everything I like about this watch. I'm sure we're both going to talk about this, but the double tap gesture is a cool new feature. You can't use it when you're exercising. I asked Apple about this and they basically said it's because when you're running or when you're doing any sport, you're already moving your wrists so much, it would be really difficult for the watch to work out whether you're just moving as part of the exercise or whether you are double tapping. But when you're not exercising, it is a cool feature. I've used it to kind of pause my alarm and to start a timer, all the little things you do if you're wearing a watch 24/7. I would say it isn't, I think we're so used to tapping the watch, it does take a little while for this to become intuitive or to become second nature. But it is a cool feature and it's definitely worth mentioning. I also like how neat it is. This is the 41mm and it's in the pink colour with the pink strap, and I just love how kind of neat it fits against my wrist. I think these days watches are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and personally I like, when I'm not running, to have a watch on my wrist that just kind of disappears and it doesn't look like a big sports watch, and this definitely fits that bill. It's also worth mentioning my third like, the straps. Apple has changed the straps as part of their carbon neutral watches, and this has replaced the Sport Loop that would be the silicone loop with the different holes to pop in, open and close the watch. And it's almost like, it's more similar to the trail loop that we saw on the Ultra. So it's a really thin Velcro strap, and I've really loved it. I was really not sure about it when I got it out of the box because I hate a material strap. It's why I've never got on with Whoop, because I can't bear the feeling of a wet strap around my wrist that takes hours to dry when I'm swimming, when I'm washing up, when I get in the shower, and I just hate it. So I was a bit like, oh, I'm not sure about this, but it has been great. I love the Velcro. It dries really quick, so I've not had the problem of having that wet band around my wrist. And the Velcro is just really handy. I think and probably everyone, has my watch a little bit tighter when I'm on the run, and then I loosen it when I get home because I don't want it really tight against my wrist all day. And you can really easily do that with the Velcro loop. So I've been really impressed by that, and if you're like me and you're scared of fabric straps, don't let that put you off with this
So my first like is the design of the Apple Watch. I think it's the best looking smartwatch out there that has really good sports features, and I do prefer it to the Apple Watch Ultra 2 in terms of design because it is smaller, sleeker, lighter, just sits more nicely on the wrist, I find, than the Apple Watch Ultra. Sports tracking is also really, really good. We'll compare it obviously to sports watches, but I think it's important to compare it to other smartwatches because recently I've been testing the Google Pixel Watch 2 and I've tested other smartwatches, and when it comes to the sports, Apple Watch is miles ahead. Like the native tracking is a lot better, you get a load more customization, loads more features, structured workouts are more easier to use on the watch, and of course you also get access to the Apple App Store, which is full of amazing apps. Like, and again, this isn't the same on other smartwatches. Like if you're using the Google Play Store, you're just not finding apps of the quality of stuff like Work Outdoors or U-Race. There's just loads of really good sports apps within the Apple Watch, and that adds to the native tracking that you can get a very, very good sports tracking experience, not just for a smartwatch as well. Like it is as good as a lot of sports watches out there. The native tracking on the best sports watches is that little bit more refined, a bit more intuitive. Things like maps are more expensive watches, but if you're using the App Store, you can get a brilliant sports tracking experience from the Apple Watch Series 9 that matches up really well with sports watches, especially at its price point. So there's, no matter how serious you are a runner, the Apple Watch Series 9 will cater to your needs as a great sports tracker, as long as you're okay with the slightly short battery life and the fact you don't get a lap button, which is still quite annoying. You can double tap and stuff like that, but yeah, we'll come on to that later. And then obviously the big like with the Apple Watch is very much the fact that it is such a good smartwatch. It's very useful in general life. You get really good activity tracking. So if you're looking outside the sports side of things, then you obviously have got, I think, the best smartwatch here with really good integration of all the smart features. NFC payments are obviously very easy and all that kind of stuff. So if you're looking at this as a crossover watch, it certainly nails the smartwatch side of things, and I do think the sports tracking is really good, with some limitations, which we're going to come on to in the dislike section. So one dislike to note, top of the bat, is that the heart rate accuracy has not been very good for me on the Apple Watch Series 9, which is a bit of a first. Like normally, since I think it was the Series 4 they introduced this new heart rate sensor, I've had a really good heart rate tracking experience with the Apple Watch Series watches because they are small, they sit tight on the wrist, but last few runs in particular, it's been really poor. It's been very high throughout all my runs, and normally it just drops out if you can't get a good heart rate reading, and that's kind of okay. It's a bit annoying not to have anything on your wrist, but it's better than having incorrect info. But yeah, last few runs, heart rate tracking has been quite poor. You can pair up a external heart rate sensor to the Apple Watch Series 9 pretty easily, and I would do that with a chest strap or something just to get more reliable data if you're using it to judge your effort during workouts. Like I say, in the past it's been pretty good. Early on in testing, the heart rate tracking was quite good in it, but yeah, of late it's not been great, and that's actually a bit of a surprise with this watch. All right, let's talk about what you do miss out on in terms of sports tracking compared to the Apple Watch Ultra and indeed sports watches in general. So you do not get a lap button on this watch. Like to take a lap in the native tracking, you have to double tap the screen, and if you're using some third-party apps, you can set up that if you press both buttons at once, it will take a lap. It's just kind of fine. You can get by, but I've been using it recently for workouts, and it's been wet sometimes, and that makes it a bit harder to use a double tap. The same is true if you've got very sweaty fingers or you're wearing gloves. General trying to press two buttons at once is a bit annoying. So yeah, the lap thing is a minor annoyance. You can get the lap button on every sports watch and indeed the Apple Watch Ultra. It's a shame it's not on this watch. And then things like precision start, not having that's a bit annoying. You do get that with third-party apps where you can see your GPS status before you start a run, but if you use the native tracking app on the Apple Watch Series 9, it will just start when you press start. You won't tell you if you've got GPS lock on yet, and it's such a little thing. I'm sure they could add this to the watch. It doesn't need to be exclusive to the Apple Watch Ultra. It's a very small thing. And then the GPS accuracy. Now, this is good, I would say. Like in the past, I've been really impressed with the Apple Watch GPS accuracy, but now we've moved into the multi-band era of watches. It not having multi-band is a bit of a shortcoming. There are sports watches at its price or less that do have this, things like the Forerunner 255, the Chorus Pace 3, the Forerunner 265 is only a little bit more. Obviously the Apple Watch Ultra has multi-band GPS. It's a bit more battery intensive. I imagine that's why it's been left off the Series 9, but you will notice a difference in GPS accuracy. I wore this at the same time as the Garmin Epix Pro and the Apple Watch Ultra 2 in my testing, and you get slightly more smooth corners, things like that with the Apple Watch Series 9, a little bit less sure of itself when you go under tree cover and that kind of thing, and it ends up shortening runs a fair bit, I found, because it does chop off corners a little bit more than the multi-band watches. Not a big loss, still a pretty accurate watch, but again, you're just losing out a little bit there to compare to sports watches when it comes to what is the heart of run tracking for me, which is GPS accuracy. Battery life. I mean, we don't need to spend too much time on this. Battery life's never going to be very good on the Apple Watch Series watch. It's a small watch, it's performance focused, got a big bright screen, it lasts a day, you have to charge it every day, and that's all. That is just what it is. But obviously, sports watches will last much longer, and the Apple Watch Ultra lasts twice as long as that. And then the other minor concern is you're still not really looking at things like readiness stats and all those kind of training analysis stats you get on sports watches. Now, there is data available in the health app on the Apple Watch that you can kind of piece together some of this kind of stuff yourself if you want. But in terms of just providing that quick look at heart rate variability, status, or things like that on the watch itself, it doesn't really do any of that. Some third-party apps have picked it up a little bit, but they don't do it very well, in my opinion, just, I think, based mostly on hardware limitations and how often the Apple Watch is able to take readings compared to what you get to sports watches, especially when it comes to sleep tracking and that kind of thing. They get a lot more detail on that, and that translates into a lot more general detail about the state of your body, which you don't really get with the Apple Watch Series 9 as yet. Again, it's not necessarily going to be a huge loss for lots of people, but you are getting this on sports watches around this price point, and some other smartwatches do a lot more in this area as well. Fitbit obviously has a lot of good sleep tracking stuff, which is then used on the Google Pixel Watch, for example.
So, my dislikes. Not an awful lot has changed. It doesn't feel very different. I think before I put this on, I was using the Apple Watch Series 8, and I do wonder if I was using an older Apple Watch, I would notice more of a change, but it doesn't feel like an awful lot has changed. Obviously, Apple had put the new S9 processor in here, and they say that it makes the watch feel a lot quicker and it move a lot faster, and it's just a better processor. But and that's great. That is great. From a user perspective, I don't think it feels very different. But again, I wonder if I was testing a much older Apple Watch, whether I would have noticed that. I also still find it really fiddly to run with. I don't know whether it's because I've got the smaller screen or whether it's just I cannot run and swipe a watch to pause it. If I'm coming up to traffic lights, I can't keep running and pause this watch very easily. I know you can press the two buttons on the side and pause it, but I still find it fiddly to run with, and I don't know if it's just me, but that hasn't changed. Nothing really from a running perspective has changed on this watch, but I still find it a little bit fiddly. And I much prefer the experience of running with the Ultra just because of the action button. I think being able to squeeze and pause the watch is fantastic. I also still think, and this is a problem with all Apple Watches, not just the Series 9, but it's really, really lacking some kind of health and recovery features. There is no option if you go and run a marathon tomorrow with this on your wrist. The day after, it's still going to be telling you to close all your rings. There's no recovery data. There's no option to pause your rings if you're injured, if you're pregnant. I'm pregnant at the moment, and I've been so impressed by Garmin's pregnancy mode because it immediately pauses all of those training metrics that buzz at you to tell you you're detraining, to give you a score when you head out on a run. They've all gone. And I think that, for me, is really reassuring because I don't want to be irritated by that when I'm just trying to keep moving. That isn't available here. Still find it quite fiddly. You still rely on the health app a lot, which I don't find that intuitive. And I think that's something that Apple really, really need to work on. They're recording all this data, but I still find it quite difficult to really work out what to do with it. And I think that's one thing Apple could really easily fix, and I really hope they do. So my verdict, if you're looking for a smartwatch, this is easily the best on the market. It's a fantastic watch. It's great to wear 24/7. It looks great. It's like having an iPhone on your wrist. As a smartwatch, it's incredible. From a running perspective, I think if you're looking for a running watch and you've just signed up for your first marathon, half marathon, 10K, and you're looking for a watch to track all your training on, I would probably, for a similar price point, go for the Garmin Forerunner 265, which again is around the same price as the Apple Watch Series 9, but it has loads of Garmin's really advanced training metrics that you're seeing on the 965, the Phoenix and the Epix. And I think it just helps you, it's more user-friendly, it's easier to use on the run, and it helps you work out how you're recovering and what to do the next day when you're not running. I think they're, as much as they might seem pointless, these tools really do help you. And I would say from a running watch perspective, definitely go for the 265. I think if you're really, you want to buy an Apple Watch and you are on a bit of a budget, the Series 8 feels very similar to the Series 9 from a user perspective on your watch. I know the processor is different. The Series 8 does not have the double tap gesture, and it won't. But that said, on the wrist, they feel very, very similar. And I think Apple do a really good job of kind of keep rolling out those updates. So it's not like once they release a new watch, the old watch is dead, which is kind of what Fitbit do. They keep rolling out updates so that if you buy the 8 now, you'll still get the same updates that the 9 gets for the next few years. So I think if you're on a budget, save your money and get the Apple Watch Series 8. But if you want the latest watch, I have loved it, love the new strap, do like the double tap gesture. It is a great little watch.
So my verdict on the Apple Watch Series 9 is that it's not the biggest update in the world when it comes to sports use, but it is very much an outstanding watch. This is definitely the best smartwatch for sports you can get at its price point, and it is so much cheaper than the Apple Watch Ultra. It's probably the one that people are going for a lot more, and it delivers a really good sports tracking experience. You are going to lose out on a few what I think are important sports tracking features that do add up: the lap button, the battery life, the multiband GPS, things like that, which you get on the Apple Watch Ultra. You do notice that almost every day, if you're using it to run every day, those little benefits of that watch do add up. But at the same time, the Series 9 is still an excellent sports tracker, even if you're a very serious runner. It's good looking. I prefer the design of it to the Apple Watch Ultra. It's lighter, and obviously it's half the price. So I think this is the best value for money sporty smartwatch out there. And for all the testing I've done from Android devices or semi-smartwatches, it's it blows them out of the water because it's just a lot smarter than them, and then the sports tracking is much better than on Android devices I've tried. You can, though, get those cross-party kind of smartwatches from brands like Garmin, where you have things like music storage, NFC payments, key smart features, even if you haven't got a big app store or cellular connectivity. But things like the Vivo Active 5, the Garmin Venue 3, looking at more expensive watches like the Epix range, or even the Forerunner 265, which is very much a sports watch, but it has an AMOLED screen, it has NFC payments, it has music storage, and it just has brilliant native tracking. It's a little bit more than the Apple Watch Series 9, but it's a much more comprehensive and easy to use sports watch, I'd say. But you do get greater smarts from the Apple Watch for sure. And obviously, if you are looking more for the sports side of things, you can go a lot cheaper and get something like the Coros Pace 3 and get a better sports watch, but you're not really getting any smarts there or anything like the design of the Apple Watch. So I do think it's a really good watch for runners. It's a good price if you're prepared to charge it every day and make some concessions and make a bit more effort in how you use it in terms of hunting out apps that do what you want to, double tapping for a lap instead of pressing one button, that kind of thing. It will do everything you need as a run tracker. You lose out on the training analysis side of things, obviously, compared to sports watches, but a lot of people might not use that much. But yeah, it really does come down to how much you want all the extra smarts and the great design you get here. If they are worth it to you to basically take a small hit on the sports side of things, then the Apple Watch Series 9 is a fantastic watch to go for. But like I say, it's not a huge upgrade on the Series 8 if you've already got that watch, or if you're shopping around and see the Series 8 at a good deal, then that's still an excellent sports watch as well, with all the same key features as the Apple Watch Series 9, just lacking a couple of little things they've added, like the slightly brighter screen and that double tap gesture. So that's our review of the Apple Watch Series 9. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Are you keen on the Apple Watch as a runner, or will you always prefer to get a proper sports watch from someone like Garmin or Coros? Please do like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.